Hello, everyone, welcome to US Report's YouTube channel. Tensions are high between Russia and NATO after Turkey supports Sweden and Finland's bid in joining the alliance. Russian President Vladimir Putin has issued a warning to Finland and Sweden, saying that if they allow NATO troops and infrastructure onto their soil, Russia will retaliate. According to him, Russia must create the same threats for the territory from which threats against us are created. Sweden and Finland are set formally to end decades of neutrality and join the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, in a historic breakthrough for the alliance that deals a blow to Russian President Vladimir Putin. The last major hurdle to the two nations' entry to the bloc was removed when Turkey dropped its opposition on Tuesday. That breakthrough came during a NATO summit in Madrid that has already become one of the most consequential meetings in the history of the military alliance. The two countries are now expected to become full NATO members quickly, shoring up the bloc's eastern flank within months of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Sweden and Finland both announced their intention to join NATO in May, after Russia's invasion of Ukraine caused a sudden shift in attitudes toward joining the bloc. That announcement was welcomed by almost all of NATO's leaders, but there was one significant obstacle. Turkey's president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, said he was not looking at both countries joining NATO positively, accusing them of housing Kurdish terrorist organizations. Under NATO rules, just one member state can veto a new applicant's membership. However, a big diplomatic breakthrough between the three countries took place at the NATO summit in Madrid on Tuesday. Turkey signed a trilateral memorandum with Finland and Sweden, lifting its opposition and officially welcoming them to join the bloc. In NATO, we have always shown that whatever our differences, we can always sit down, find common ground and resolve any issues. NATO's open-door policy has been an historic success, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg told journalists in Madrid. On Wednesday, NATO formally invited Sweden and Finland to join, kickstarting a multi-stage process that will end with both countries holding full membership. Stoltenberg said Wednesday that he expects Sweden and Finland to become members of the military alliance quickly. The invitation sparks a 7-step accession process. Key moments along that path include talks between NATO and the candidate countries. The candidates must formally accept the obligations of membership, and then current member states sign an accession protocol, before individually ratifying it back home. We need a ratification process in 30 parliaments. That always takes some time, but I expect also that to go rather quickly because allies are ready to try to make that ratification process happen as quickly as possible, Stoltenberg explained Wednesday. After that, the candidate country is formally invited to accede to the Washington Treaty, the founding document of the alliance. NATO has an open-door policy. Any country can be invited to join if it expresses an interest, as long as it is able and willing to uphold the principles of the bloc's founding treaty. The ratification process usually takes about a year, from the signing of the accession protocol by existing members to the country joining the Washington Treaty. But the war in Ukraine has added unprecedented urgency to Sweden and Finland's membership, and the timeline could be accelerated accordingly. On the other side, meanwhile, the Kremlin has condemned NATO's imperial ambitions, accusing the military alliance of seeking to assert its supremacy through the Ukraine conflict. Russian President Vladimir Putin said on Wednesday that he would respond in kind if NATO deployed troops and infrastructure in Finland and Sweden after the two Nordic countries join the military alliance. Putin made his comment a day after NATO member Turkey lifted its veto over the bid by Finland and Sweden to join the alliance when the three nations agreed to protect each other's security. Helsinki and Stockholm joining NATO marks one of the biggest shifts in European security in decades. With Sweden and Finland, we don't have the problems that we have with Ukraine. They want to join NATO, go ahead, Putin told Russian state television after talks with regional leaders in the Central Asian ex-Soviet state of Turkmenistan. But they must understand there was no threat before, while now, if military contingents and infrastructure are deployed there, we will have to respond in kind and create the same threats for the territories from which threats towards us are created, he said. Moscow's relations with Helsinki and Stockholm would inevitably sour over their NATO membership, he added. Everything was fine between us, but now there might be some tensions, there certainly will, Putin said. It's inevitable if there is a threat to us. Putin also denied that Moscow's forces were responsible for a missile raid on a crowded shopping center in the Ukrainian town of Kremenchuk earlier this week, in which at least 18 people were killed and many remain missing in the rubble. Our army does not attack any civilian infrastructure sites. We have every capability of knowing what is situated where, Putin told a news conference in the Turkmenistan capital of Ashgabat. I am convinced that this time, everything was done in this exact manner, Putin said. Ukraine accuses Russia of targeting the shopping center and civilian shoppers. The Russian leader made his comment as NATO on Wednesday branded Russia the biggest direct threat to Western security after its invasion of Ukraine. The military alliance also agreed on plans to modernize Kyiv's beleaguered armed forces, saying it stood fully behind Ukrainians' heroic defense of their country. President Putin's war against Ukraine has shattered peace in Europe and has created the biggest security crisis in Europe since the Second World War, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg told a news conference. NATO has responded with strength and unity, he said. Britain, meanwhile, pledged another £1 billion, $1.2 billion, in military aid to Ukraine Wednesday to help it fend off Russia's invasion, including air defense systems and drones. The fresh funds will bring Britain's total military support to Kyiv since the start of the war in late February to £2.3 billion, Downing Street said in a statement. The package includes sophisticated air defense systems, uncrewed aerial vehicles, innovative new electronic warfare equipment, and thousands of pieces of vital kit for Ukrainian soldiers, it said. This will be a first step to allow Ukraine to go beyond its valiant defense efforts and move towards mounting offensive operations to regain territory. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson said Vladimir Putin's attacks against Ukraine were increasingly barbaric, as the Russian leader fails to make the gains he had anticipated and hoped for, and the futility of this war becomes clear to all. UK weapons, equipment, and training are transforming Ukraine's defenses against this onslaught, the statement quoted him as saying. And we will continue to stand squarely behind the Ukrainian people to ensure Putin fails in Ukraine. On the same day, U.S. President Joe Biden announced more land, sea, and Air Force deployments across Europe, including a permanent Army headquarters with an accompanying battalion in Poland, the first full-time U.S. deployment on NATO's eastern fringes. Top U.S. intelligence official Avril Haines also said on Wednesday the most likely near-term scenario for the war is a grinding conflict in which Moscow makes only incremental gains but no breakthrough on its goal of taking most of Ukraine.